So, welcome back to episode 34 of the Everybody But Me show.
30.
I got Phil riding shotgun with me tonight.
How you doing, everyone?
And we have a great guest for us. We have Dr. Darcy, and she is a licensed clinical social worker, and I am excited to have you on here. We had a talk last week, and you started bringing up all these, these kind of, you have 3 stages of love and all these different philosophies, and that, you definitely had my wheels spinning, and I'm excited to get on this call with you. This show, we explore the reason why we're always single, and not you guys. I mean, Darcy's married. Phil, you're married.
I'm married.
But I'm still out here just, stuck in, left out of the fun crowd. But hey, let's do it, Darcy.
Absolutely. But so can I'd love to start with a question for you, Tyler, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Just to get some history on you. So you've had a long-term relationship, right?
Do we say a year and a half is long term?
Absolutely.
8 months is long term?
Okay. Yeah, it's pushing it, but we'll say
Okay,
that we'll lump that in. Yeah.
All right, we'll lump it in. So I had 1.5. We'll say 1.5.
So I'm curious, what was your role in why one or both of those relationships didn't work out?
My role, I think, is definitely different for both of them. And so if you want, we can dive, and we'll go to a song here, because I'm gonna kind of conjure up what I gotta say here, because it's good for both. Oh boy, yeah, I was definitely the troublemaker in one of them. So we're gonna go to a song first. All right, what a song, Phil, what a song. All right, we are back here with Dr. Darcy Sterling. For those of you guys don't know, though, she is the host of E's show, Famously Single, relationship therapist, and she is a licensed clinical social worker, like I said before. She, of course, has already hit me with a hard question. What do you got for me, Darcy?
I am curious as to what your role was in one or both of your long-term relationships not working out.
Yeah, so I will say my role wasn't, I was definitely playing a big role in my first relationship for it not working out. I was pretty much down and out, depressed, sad. I got cut by the Ravens. I was just failed football player. I was embarrassed to go outside my house, to go meet her parents, talk to her parents. I was just ashamed of myself because I didn't make my dream, and that's all I talked about. It's all I lived. It's all I was. And went through like a deep depression. Got actually picked up by them again, got cut again. So I was like, even make the wound even deeper. And she was trying to be the best girlfriend for me. And she was trying to dig me out of that hole, but I just couldn't get out of that hole. And we dated, from afar for another 6 more months. And we should have been over a long time ago, but it was comfortable to stay in that relationship. Mm-hmm. And I would always mess around with the guys and talk in the group chats, and we'd talk about girls, and I'd always be saying funny things, and she would actually go onto my social media, because if you know me after a while, it's pretty easy to figure out what my accounts are, and she would go into my social media and see what I was saying to my boys. And she would just get really upset by that. And then some girl who would send just unsolicited pics to me all the time, and we would I would never say anything back to her picture wise, but sometimes we'd just mess around with her, and she would send more pics, and she saw all that one day and opened up one of the pictures, and that was pretty much like the icing on the cake right there. And I learned some very valuable lessons, and I didn't really realize it or learn it until after we broke up for about 3 weeks. I asked to sit down for breakfast for kind of closure,
Uh-huh.
And I saw how beat up and hurt she was. And when I saw that, because I would never cheat, that to me, that's my cardinal sin. I would never do that. But for what I put her through, and even just communicating with somebody else, or even goofing around with my buddies and talking about other girls, it made her feel a certain type of way. And I'm and then so what I learned is damn, I love this girl. I treated her like she was one of my best friends, but why would you do that to your best friend? Why would you hurt someone like that? And when I saw how hurt she was, when I met with her for that breakfast, I was like, man, my best friends are girls, Katie and Molly. And I was like, I would never do that to them. So why would I do that to her? And that was kind of like my real first eye-opening experience. I was like 23 years old, my first time ever having a girlfriend. And I was like, damn, I fucked someone up and hurt her.
So, do you feel like the mistake that you made was not tending to the depression going into that conversation with this girl on social, or just the interaction on social?
Yeah, no, I think the issue was like I was such in a bad space and that I wasn't addressing that and letting myself feel that or understand that. And I was just finding things to avoid it and get in the way of it,
Distract yourself
Distract
from it?
myself, exactly.
Yeah.
And
So, what would you do differently than if you were to ever feel those depressive symptoms again?
work on myself.
Yeah.
I don't think it's okay. I think before I was like, even like now, but I'm starting to turn the page on that because I've been trying to like really figure myself out and work on myself and do a lot of things. I was like, I don't need anyone to be with me right now because I'm not there yet. But I also don't think you should close yourself off to people. And if someone is there and to let you grow and make sure you get yourself right, and be supportive, then I think it can work.
I do think that it's really hard for men to get help for mental health issues. Really hard for men to get support for that. So I admire your willingness to put it out there and to own it. And I hope that, moving forward, I'm here for you. I can never be your therapist because now I know you in this capacity,
Yep.
but I can be your friend and I can connect you. And there's the stigma around what is the ideas and the myths around what makes a strong man are so toxic to men getting the support that they need that I really, really admire your willingness to talk about it. And again, I hope that if it ever happens again, you can reach out. Obviously, you're very well connected, but the moments like that, you need a therapist. Like you need someone under the hood looking at what is happening and giving you tools and skills so that you can, as you say, get right, as I say, heal.
I completely agree with you, and I think that's something that I've been, I haven't really gone to a full-blown therapy. Well, first of all, I have a hard time figuring out who and what and where to go and what's legit. I had an experience of which I've already shared before on this show about how it didn't go well for me one time trying to go to therapy, and so I've kind of like backed off since then. But I think even you made a point, but I think to even go off of that point is like when you're in those situations, you need someone to be there with you. I think even before you even get in those situations, you need to have someone. You need to just do normal maintenance on yourself.
Yeah,
change the oil a little bit.
Absolutely. Like we do a physical exam every year. We need a mental health exam every year. And if you have a connection with somebody, then when you're stuck, you already know who you're going to. Who I am in therapy is who I am in life. So kind of welcome to your first unofficial therapy session. Also, in your defense, I myself have probably funded half of a Hamptons house, me as the client of some of the worst and most disappointing therapy imaginable. I have had some good therapy, but by and large, my therapeutic experiences as a client have been so disappointing that they have propelled me to become the therapist I always needed. So I don't know what your experience was, but all I've had were neutral to negative experiences with therapists.
What are some signs of what a negative therapy session looks like compared to a positive session?
Listen, for me, I can only speak for myself.
Yep.
I want to feel chemistry with the person, not creepy, not like I want to, hook up with the person,
comfortable.
but comfortable. I want to feel like the person is in the room with me. I want to feel like they are trying to give a shit about me. I don't want a blank slate who can't look like they have a personality, or who can't ever make a self-referencing remark to help even out the shame in the room, because clients come to therapy not feeling great. You're not feeling at your best when you're going to see a therapist. And irrespective of how far we've come with dispelling the shame around mental health issues, people still walk in the door with the tail between their legs. So the way you can even that out is to normalize the experience. And I throw, when it makes sense, I throw some of my own stories in, just the way I did with you just now. I didn't give you gory details. I didn't tell you why I've been in therapy. There's nothing inappropriate that I just shared with you, but I did tell you I too have had many, many, many years of disappointing therapy experiences. So, the person should be somebody who is helping you to feel comfortable. Like if I were to go to your house, there should be a warmth coming from the person, a level of warmth. The silence, the old school therapist where you walk in and the therapist is silent, I am not about that. I just think that is a very archaic way of practicing therapy. They're going to come for me. The haters are going to come for me, Tyler. I'm telling you right now.
I got you back, Darcy. Come on now.
Okay. But, these are my experiences. The antiseptic experience of therapy, I'm sorry, it's like emotionally dropping your pants. You need somebody to make you feel a little comfortable in that process. And ideally, people can buy my time. They can't buy my feelings. And the magic only happens when I start to feel for the client.
Yep.
And so, it is communicated, whether they're in the room with me or in the virtual room with me, that I care. People know I've got skin in the game. People know that I'm listening. I'm not distracted. I am fully focused. I'm asking the harder questions also. And look, people don't practice the way I practice. I get that. I'm my own kind of special monster. I am the therapist for like the therapy Olympics, if you wanted to train for that stuff. Like people come to me when they want to hit it hard and like be almost like an immersive experience in therapy, even though most of my clients only come in once a week. I give them homework every day of their lives so that the aha moments that they have in session, they can then practice them outside my office so that they're not just thinking about therapy and trying to employ the skills and the concepts that I'm teaching them 1 hour a week, because I'm basically trying to teach people how to speak a whole different language. If you only practiced a foreign language 1 hour a week, you're going to be in there decades. You're never going to learn. And I want people to be able to not just understand theoretically what I'm saying, but if they can't apply it to their lives, what's the point? I'm not into mentally masturbating.
I love her terminology.
So
taking their pants off, mentally masturbating.
Yeah, Dr. Darcy, you got me zoned in right now.
Yeah, you are definitely a different type of therapist. I'll tell you that. You tell you how it is.
Better or worse, brothers.
I like it. I like it. Something we talked about, and I kind of want to just dive into it right now. I think it's just, something I wanted to kind of predicate this whole show off of today is the 3 stages that you talk about that are in a relationship.
Right.
And
I'm sorry.
No. And I just wanted to dive in on that with you.
Yeah, we started talking about this because on the call that we had last week, we were talking about what are some of the biggest problems people have in relationships? Well, aside from the fact that nobody teaches us relationship skills, and then we all scratch our heads when one relationship after the next fails, because we really don't know, we don't have the skills and the tools to make relationships work because we're never taught them. The minute we experience strife or disagreements, or which looks like bickering and bitching in relationships, most of us see that as red flags. And, many people are like, we're out. I'm out of here. This is not the person I thought I was dating. This is not the person I have been dating for 9 months, a year and a half. And it's one of the biggest myths that exists. What people don't understand is that is a normal part of relationships. So what I explained to you is what I'll explain right now. There's 3 stages to relationships. I kind of feel like I should be drawing on a blackboard. Here we go, kids. 3 stages to relationships. There's the honeymoon phase, which we all know about.
Yep.
That's the stage where we're obsessively thinking about our crush. the sex is amazing. You know, we like colors are brighter, food tastes better, music, we're hearing it through like a different filter for the first time. Everything, I like literally gave myself goosebumps because I'm such a dork and love the romance of those beginnings of those relationships. Now, if you're successful in that first relationship and you've gone through all the ruling out of the other person, like you've made sure that the person doesn't hit any of your deal breakers on your deal breakers list, and you progress in the relationship, you start meeting their friends and family, and you're like, no, I think I want to give this a try. You enter into, I suppose, a commitment, and then you go into this second stage of relationship, which is called organic love. I call it organic love because it's just raw love. You've successfully, in the previous relationship, in the previous stage, you've successfully laid the foundation for trust and safety in the relationship. You've decided that you want to try and make this work. You are making this work. And now you guys are in this second stage of relationship. And this is where everything gets fucked up for most people. Most relationships live and die in this stage. If they live in this stage, it's because people, well, before I do that, let me just back up and say, what happens in this stage is that because we have fallen in love and kind of done this relationship merge and created this thing together with this other person, now we want to try and be individuals in the relationship. So now we're feeling safer and we're more inclined to express and feel alternate perspectives, alternate opinions, alternate desires. So if in the first stage of the relationship, most of what we did was hang out and have great sex, second stage of the relationship, I'm like scratching my head like, we going out? We going out? Because there's a new restaurant that just opened down the street. And my wife's looking at me like, going out? We haven't gone out in like 3 months. Why do you want to suddenly go out? Or I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start hitting the gym 3 nights a week now instead of just 2. Person's like, what? Why are you doing that? Or I'm like, you know what? I need a girls' night out. I've never asked for that in the honeymoon stage because my brain was creating all these neural chemicals. And those neural chemicals result in us essentially feeling the equivalent of a high that entire time. Now, that high does 2 things. One, it makes everything seem amazing that our partner is doing. And 2, it inhibits our ability to see their shortcomings. Some of their quirks and idiosyncrasies, they look endearing in that first stage. Second stage of the relationship, my wife's walking in my office and she opens the door and I'm like, the fuck? What was that? But like 2 months ago, I was like, oh my God, she's so cute. She has so much energy. Or I'm just like, oh my God, she just wants to cuddle at night. And I'm like, this can't just be cuddling. We got to move this along. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So suddenly 2 people in the relationship, I actually think I'm doing a pretty bad job of trying to describe this. You try to be 2 individuals within the relationship. So the 2 individuals, it's almost like the teenage rebellion stage.
So you're saying like in this organic love part is when you start to kind of grow away and find your own individuality and back again in the relationship where when in the honeymoon you were just like this, you were connected, you were whole, you were one. And so it's like regaining your independence again. But then you're like, why are you doing this now? Why are you doing that now?
That's beautiful. Thank you, Tyler. You like did that in a soundbite. Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. And you want to do that within the context of the relationship. This is a natural part of feeling safe and connected in a relationship. Like now that I know that you're not going to be gone next week, maybe I'm going to tell you some of my darkest parts.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm going to share with you some of my fantasies. Maybe I'm going to tell you that thing that you've been doing, I'm not so crazy about it. Can you like move over in the bed? And all of these things start to suddenly feel to us and to our partner, because our partner's having the same experience, because in this second stage of relationship, those neurochemicals, they're going away. They are going away. So all the stuff that happened naturally in that first stage of the relationship, we are showing up so effortlessly for one another because we intrinsically feel motivated to do that. That shit is going away in the second stage. Suddenly we don't feel like waking up and making, our partner breakfast. We don't feel like bringing, going out to dinner and dropping money and doing all the things that we had been doing, or we want to do different things. We're trying to find out if we can be individuals within the relationship, and that creates friction. Now, if either one of the partners has relationship skills, well-developed relationship skills, then the couple has a chance of succeeding and getting out of it. But if neither one does, and worse, if neither one has done like any of their own work, meaning they've not been in therapy, they don't even really know what their likes are. That most people know what we don't like. We don't know what we like. We're real quick to identify what we don't like in a partner, but we can't really describe to somebody else what it is we want in our ideal partner, or the types of disagreements that like freak us out or cause us to shut down, or, whatever our propensities are. It's very hard for most people to articulate that to a partner because we don't even know it about ourselves. So what you have is you've got two people who are essentially like the blind leading the blind. The person who is having the feelings doesn't know how to articulate the feelings, and the partner isn't a mind reader. So you've got a recipe for disagreements, bickering, and disconnect. And you need the relationship skills to get through that stage to get to the promised land. Now, what I started to say a few minutes ago in my long-winded way is I started to say that most relationships live and die in this stage. If they live in this stage, it's kind of like the Cold War. We've all seen those adults who they're basically roommates with tension in the air. They're just committed to not separating. They're not committed to staying together. They're not committed to making it work. They're just going to white knuckle their way through the relationship for however many years they've got left on this planet. And you could just tell there's zero passion in the relationship, and they're just making it work. It feels like the Cold War. Then you have the other couples who, if they're living in this, they are exploding and fighting with each other, but at least there's passion over there. But the explosions can be can bring a whole different set of problems to the mix. But most people exit here, and they exit. And the problem with exiting is that this is your training camp. If I can try to use a sports analogy, you sporty guys. I'm not a sporty girl, but I'm going to try right now. This is your opportunity to do the drills that will take you a couple years to get to with your next partner. And if you don't learn how to identify your feelings, negotiate compromise, communicate your needs, resolve a fight, make up, forgive, all that nasty stuff that we don't want to think about in relationships. If you don't learn how to do that in this relationship, you're bringing your same bad technique to the next relationship, and you're going to have to wait another 9 months to a year and a half before you hit the same spot of friction to be able to learn these skills. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
a lot of sense.
And so I'm going to wrap it up real fast because it's a long monologue and I'm boring myself.
No,
I can't imagine how
you should see the comments right now, Darcy. Darcy, they're loving it. And they got a lot of questions.
Good.
Yes.
You're on fire right now. I'm going to tell you that now.
I'm so glad.
You're on fire.
So what we want to do is we want to learn these relationship skills so that we can get to the third stage, which is mindful love. In mindful love, we know how to have a fight. We know how to disagree without being a douchebag. We know how to forgive one another. We know how to give each other grace and be gracious when we mess up. We know how to communicate our needs to each other. It's not perfect, but because we got so many miles under our belt together, we know we can make it through because we've been through some stuff and we've come out the other end, and we no longer we're always going to unintentionally push each other's buttons. But when it happens, our partner knows that it wasn't intentional, that we fucked up. You know, I should bring my wife in here to just describe what that looks like for you guys so that you can hear firsthand what that's like. And I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. She's got a session upstairs. But all of which is to say, like, you know, we don't get along perfectly in the third stage. But we know how to get ourselves out of messes that we fall into. And it no longer feels like a crisis and chaotic. And we have also brought the beginning stage of the relationship, all that.
I was just about to ask, does the passion come back here?
Yes, you've got that in that last stage. Because now, I mean, and this is a little bit of a bummer, I'm not going to lie. All that stuff that was happening organically in the honeymoon stage, that was happening because your brain was basically secreting ecstasy. You know, when you're on ecstasy, everything feels good, everything smells good, everything looks good, and we just show up as our best selves. And, you know, I've never done ecstasy, FYI, but I'm just using this as an analogy. We're showing up, it's effortless to show up as our best selves. When you get into that third stage, you know, those days are gone. I got to actually think my way through to turn my partner on. I've got to think my way through to seduce my partner. I've got to put some strategy into the lay of the land now. I have to put effort into coming home and making sure that I have some energy in reserve to give to my partner, because I can't have blown it all at work, because relationships, they are work and they never stop being work. And if you don't want the work, then by all means, rinse and repeat that honeymoon stage. More power to you. I am a hopeless romantic who will just continue to do the work. And it is a lot of work and it never ends.
But the work is amazing, though.
It's worth it because the connection and the everything is just next level. It's next level if you can get to that third stage. Now, let's just be clear, full disclosure, I am not the poster child for mental health, nor am I always in that third stage. Just last night, I snapped at Steph and I was like, I'm really sorry I did that. Can we not talk about it and have a whole thing? And can we just like watch the show a little bit more? She's like, sure. We haven't done that in weeks. Meaning I haven't been an asshole in weeks. All right. So like she's got the reserve in her because when I've got it, when I'm keeping it together, she can forgive like that. But if we're in a cycle of it, I mean, we're going to have a long talk and we're therapists. It's going to be long and it's going to be laborious and it's going to be hours. So you're never fully in that third stage. You're always having to keep, because it's like being a pro athlete, you guys. You're never done training.
Nope.
You're never done training. And every now and then you start to slip back and then you learn something new and you find a smaller muscle and you use that one. And that helps support the bigger muscles. This is what I was taught as a dancer. My dance teachers would say, find a different muscle. The one you're using, it's not working.
Phil, I got a question for you.
This is good.
I know.
Wow.
And you should like people are like this should have been a class taught in college. This.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, but Phil,
Go ahead.
Where would you say you and Amber are?
Wow,
in that
because
spectrum?
I'm just taking you all in right now. I've been married 5 years, and I'm gonna say yes. Stage 2 was rocky. It was rocky, and we've been through some things together. But you know what? Stage 3, which I believe I'm in now, we do know how to argue and forgive each other and whatnot. And me, I'm not the greatest at it. I tend to shut down when someone's yelling at me, like a little boy. Like seriously,
Okay.
and that's
And
that's my downfall.
Oh, no, that's just how you're hardwired. Let me reframe that for you.
Go ahead.
What you need to tell her name, your wife's name is Amber?
Amber, yes.
Amber, when we disagree and you raise your voice, it causes me to shut down. If you can wait to talk to me about what is pissing you off and the thing I did wrong until you're in a place where you could just modulate your voice a little bit, because even though normally we're like passionate people and we
Yes.
talk really loud, when you're upset, it lands all differently on me. So if you can just lower your voice or wait until you're able to lower your voice and talk to me about just the one thing that I fucked up, I won't shut down and I can be in it with you. That's called your survival response style. Everyone has one. My wife's a shutter downer. So I have to not curse, but I get all of that out during the normal times because I can't not drop a good F-bomb. But when I'm mad, I lower my voice and I don't use profanity, and I look her in the eye and I reassure her that my intention is to, I don't have to do that shit anymore. It's been almost 14 years we've been married. But like, I mean, but sometimes I do if we're coming through like a bickering situation, like months of bickering, and it happens. Be honest, Phil.
Yeah.
Tell me it doesn't happen.
It does.
Like you're scratching your head. You're like, is this right? Is this right? Should this be happening still? And you're like, is this what it's going to be like for the rest of my life? And then one day something happens and it dissipates. It begins to slow down.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, now I can breathe. Now I remember why I chose her. So you just have to guide her into being a little different. And then
She's Italian. Come on, Darcy. She's Italian. She's like,
I'm Spanish and Jewish. I feel her, man.
okay.
I mean, and I, it's very difficult to do, but when you're escalated and you're in a actually, regardless of your partner's survival response style, we shouldn't be speaking to each other when we're jacked up.
That's
because we're in the part of the brain called the amygdala that's in charge of fight, flight, or freeze. All it does is hunt for threats to us. And when we're jacked up, all we see is threats coming at us from our partner. Right. So conversations aren't productive. You better off going into different rooms, chilling out for an hour, and coming back.
I was going to say, that is actually what we do now.
I was going to say, I think the best way to tell the difference between being in stage 2 and then stage 3 is when you're fighting in stage 2, it feels like the end of the world.
It does.
When you're fighting in stage 3, you're like, we're gonna get through this.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
We know we're gonna get through this.
Absolutely does. You're right.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
You're right. It feels like the end of the world because you live in that amygdala in fights and in conflict. You're absolutely right that you feel like you're dying. You feel like you're dying. And if you don't do what comes naturally to you, meaning if you shut down, you shut down. If you run, you break up. If you fight, you go to resolve it right now. That's how it manifests in modern day fight, flight, or freeze in relationships. You feel like you're going to die. You feel like you're going to feel that way for the rest of
your life. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's a great way to indicate where you're at now.
Yeah.
You know,
if
you feel like, if you can get in an argument with somebody, be like, oh yeah, I know we're gonna be like. I just know that with like homies. I'm thinking about like my, because I never made it to this point in a relationship. But I'm like thinking about like if I get an argument with Rob or get in an argument with somebody, I'm like, I know we're gonna be good, you know.
And the next day or so, it just blows over.
You know, or we talk about it when we're calmed down, or whatever. But like when there's like people who I'm not that close with, and we get into an argument or fight, I'm like, man, I'm good with them.
Yeah,
I'm out,
peace out. And
right.
I used to do that with past relationships before I got married. Stage 2, argument. All right, I'm good. I don't want to be yelled at.
Right. And so here's the thing. Like I was just going to say, maybe you can find somebody who's a little bit calmer. Obviously, that's not what you did. You are attracted to the passion.
Oh, yeah. I love my Amber Rose is absolutely amazing.
But
I
think my 8th month relationship, like we kind of started touching into that second part of dating, you know, or you call it organic love.
Yeah.
Stages.
Organic love, right? And because like we would argue and I'd get anxiety about it. I'd feel sick. I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Right.
And I'm just like,
who wants to sign up for that?
No.
Anybody with functioning above the brainstem would be like, I'm out. I don't want drama. It's not drama, guys. We have to learn how to do this because it's going to come up again in the next relationship. And again, everyone doesn't have to be in a relationship. I'm a relationship therapist who endorses every kind of relationship status imaginable. If you don't want to do that heavy lift, then do the rinse and repeat of the honeymoon and just know that
this is all you're going to live at.
Yeah. I personally think when you find your person, it is going to be easier to argue or easier just to get over things better. Like my wife and I, we've come a long ways. We've learned a lot about each other, you know. I know, all right, let her cool down. I'm going to cool down. She's going to come back to me calmer now. And like you said, you stop cursing. I had to tell her that for a while. I'm like, all right, don't do that because I get defensive and I'm going to shut down the shell and go outside. I might have to hit a tree or something, that's just, but now all that, it's gone. She blows her steam, I blow my steam, and it's a wrap.
And I don't mean to take anything away from Amber, but I'm just curious. Do you think maybe you also just learned how to navigate relationships and conflict so that you were better able to articulate what you needed in times of conflict?
Of course.
Amber got to be the sponge that got to absorb all that?
Yeah, I can see that with my experience in life that I've dated around. Yeah, I had to learn. I had to learn who I was as a person to be able to deal with my wife, who I have now today. So our relationship is amazing. I absolutely, and like you said, when you hit the stage 3, you fight better, you know each other better, and you know that you're going to get over it because we're going to get through this because you're my person. I'm never going to leave you.
So you don't sweat it. You don't even though intellectually that was such a douchey thing they just did to me.
Right.
You just know you're getting past it because you're not stuck with do I stay? Is this the deal breaker? Is this the moment where I jump? Like, you're in.
That doesn't even cross my mind now. Yeah. So
I also just want to touch on something you said, Phil. You said, I think when it's the right person, you fight better. I do think it's a myth. If I had today's relationship skills decades ago, I could have made any relationship work. I'm glad it turned out the way it turned out. I'm very good friends with most of my exes. They have beautiful families and beautiful situations, and they wouldn't have those if they were with me. They would have different family. But I do think that it's really, these are skills and anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Just like anyone can be taught how to do a deadlift with the correct form. It doesn't mean that we're going to all lift the same weight, but we can all learn how to do it if we're all ambulatory and relatively okay.
Well said.
How am I doing on those sports analogies?
No, you killed it. You killed it.
For real. What kind of athlete were you back in the day, Darcy?
I was a dancer.
Okay.
I am a dancer. I got my ballet bar right over there. I'm looking at my shoes that I have to blow the dust off. I got to get back in, man. Been too long.
I love it. What are some common things you think people do to get them they're in stage 2 of organic love that make them either bounce or allow them to progress?
So when you realize that the problems in the relationship are mostly about your history, and it's another upsetting thing that people have to hear. So the way I react in my relationship has less to do with Steph than it does to do with my childhood history. I can't take shouting.
Is childhood the biggest set of issues that people have?
Absolutely. Yeah, what happens in childhood, like 0 to 5, is we form something called an attachment style. The attachment style basically describes the ways in which we learned to get our needs met by our parents. If we won the childhood lottery and we got really, really lucky, we're in the 25% of people who have what's called a secure attachment. We're going to come out of childhood viewing relationships as a good thing. We're comfortable in them. We're comfortable out of them. We're resilient when they don't work out. We can bounce, and we're not overly dependent on partners or intimacy, and we're also not avoidant of partners or emotional intimacy. Then if you're in the majority of the population, you're going to come out with one of the next 3, which is either going to be an avoidant attachment style. These are the
That's me.
people. Yeah, there you go. You don't even need the definition, Tyler. You're like, that's me. These are people who are commitment sensitive or phobic. They're slow to commit. They're quick to jump. They have a hypersensitivity around drama. They don't want it. And it's really sad because the way that attachment style most often got created is because the kids' needs weren't met on a consistent basis. So rather than live with the needs that are not getting met, kid learn this superpower of shutting those needs down. Doesn't need too much. And it's really sad, you know? I've gotten so sensitive in my old age. Anyway, so that's the avoidant attachment style. Then there's the anxious attachment style. These are the people who are really uncomfortable being single or really, really overly reliant on relationships, on being in a relationship. People who are prone to jealousy tend to fall in this category. These are people who are told that they need too much and feel like they need too much, and they're chronically hunting for what's wrong in their relationships. Then you've got in the third category, the hybrid, which is called disorganized, because you got both. You got both. You both. Now, I want you to know that all of these attachment adaptations, they helped us survive in childhood. Most of us did not have awful parents. They did their best. Most times, it wasn't good enough. That's life. That's life. They did their best. It wasn't good enough. It's our responsibility as adults to heal ourselves. Attachment styles heal like nothing else. You can heal an attachment style so quickly, I'm saying inside of a year, unless you have like real complex trauma.
How do you train that?
So it depends on your attachment style. Yours, like, want me to pull up my notes, Tyler? I pull up my notes for you.
I would love it.
Okay, here I go. I pull these up. This is what I do in session. I'm like, hang on, let me get my notes because I don't have this stuff. My brain is for creating, not memorizing. Okay, here we go. So you think you're avoidant. So the goal would be to get you to increase and express emotional affect. So to get you to be a little bit more animated and to use longer sentences in expressing yourself. According to this, you probably tend to be concise, right? I was like, oh, wow, you did that in a soundbite. So it can be a superpower.
Yeah.
And it can also feel like from a partner's perspective, like, oh, he just wants to be done with this conversation. He's not really even in this with me. We want to increase your ability to receive compassion and nurturing, increase your ability to provide compassion and nurturing, and practice mirroring other people's body language and affect. So the next person you're in a relationship with, you know, if she's someone like me who's basically mute, if her hands aren't moving, you want to try and like emulate her a little bit. You're not going to turn into a different person. But when we're hardwired to see physical mirroring as social acceptance. And the way, and also, Tyler, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but do you tend to speak in a very controlled, kind of titrated, robotic way?
They say no. I
don't think so. No.
So on the spectrum of avoidant attachment, people fall at different levels.
Yep.
If you are on the far end of the avoidant spectrum,
I think it might be a little bit of a hybrid.
you might be. I mean, let's hope not, man, because that's hard to fix. I was it. I mean, I'm up here.
I'm done.
Poster child for emotional fractures right here in front of you. But I score now as secure. Today I score as secure because I did the work. So depending on, and here's the other thing, like I would need to know you a little bit better because I would need to know, oh, the women in my life don't think that I'm like flat affect. I don't tend to speak just like this. I can use a range of, you know what I'm saying? Like we're hardwired to hear the melodic tone. And, you know, it's going to sound different with a guy, but we're hardwired to hear a melodic tone as nurturing and communicating safety. Think about the voice that you would
That's
use
interesting,
anytime
though.
you see a
It is
puppy.
very.
I think if I'm like nervous on a date, though, I kind of talk like in a lower voice and like
Right.
just hold that tone throughout.
Maybe you do.
And then I just drink
Yeah.
a bunch of tequila espressos and
I do the same thing.
And then Tate&Tyler comes out. And then he's like, yeah, let's go.
No, I do the same thing. When I'm nervous, I'm titrated and I'm careful and I can sound scary. So we're hardwired to read that very controlled. Think about coaches. Think about the military. Think about somebody coming to do us harm. They're not speaking like this, you know?
Yep.
They're going to speak like this. And so even if you're trying to create safety for a partner, if you have a propensity to speak in a very controlled way, and think about it, when we're upset, we're trying to keep our shit together.
Yep.
So all of us are going to sound a little bit more controlled.
Very true.
And if you already sound a little controlled, you can sound robotic and it can sound unfeeling to a partner. That's it. Yeah. But again, everything is individualized and is about the person, because my clients have to tell me, oh, no, that doesn't sound like me. Okay, there's 5 other things we can work on. You know? What made you think you were avoidant?
Everyone tells me that. Whenever I have an issue or whatever, I just don't want to talk about it. Like, and I've gotten better at it, but I grew up with just a lot of arguing in my household. And so I always hated it. And I always hated arguments and fights and even just conflict between, not even just like work conflict or whatever. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that shit. Someone else will, you know, or I just let them win because I just don't want to deal with it, you know. But then I got burned enough and I've lost enough of those. And then you have to start growing a backbone. You have to start doing, you know.
It starts toughening you up, especially when someone screws you over or something like that. Yep.
So with you, Tyler, I would say that, you know, your drill would be to begin, like, I would want to come up with some exercises that were intended to teach you that all serious conversations do not lead to conflict, that there's safety and satisfaction in serious conversations. It's not always a blow up.
Yeah. And I mean, I've learned that. It's like, and I still somewhat hate doing it, but it's like, damn, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It was actually really good.
I used to have to keep a chart. I called it the reality check chart, where before the conversation, I would rate how bad I thought it was going to go and how bad I thought I was going to feel, 0 to 10. And then after the conversation, I would rate it again. They were on different ends of the spectrum. Like, things went so much better than I imagined that they would go. And I needed to see that to give myself evidence that I'm capable of having these hard conversations. That's the kind of shit that I'm saying I want from a therapist.
Yeah.
I want to know a therapist didn't just learn that stuff in a book, but actually has some life experience.
No.
You are listen, I don't even curse, but you are a badass therapist, girl. Wow.
Thanks.
Seriously. I'm
27 years, Phil. I hope
well,
so.
there you go.
All right,
Experience.
so I got something for you.
Beautiful.
People, I think part of being single and stuck in that whole singledom phase, like, you know, kind of what this whole show is predicated off of is not making themselves emotionally available. How do you put yourself back out there to become emotionally available again to somebody?
Well, if we've pulled back on our emotional availability, it's because life has slapped us around a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. And we have been rejected and we don't want to be rejected. The problem is that we're always going to attract and be attracted to people who are on the same developmental stage as us. And it may not look the same. It often doesn't look the same. It presents differently. But the degree of deficit is likely to be the same. So if you're going into a dating app and you're already feeling emotionally guarded, chances are the people that you're going to click with or attract are also going to be people who are not going to give too much emotional stuff, because they'd be repulsed by banging into the wall of you because you look a little cold. Mm-hmm. I would say, and look, this happens to lots of people, we have to act as if. First of all, if somebody's feeling emotionally unavailable, I also don't like my clients to date when they're feeling that way, because I don't want them to attract someone they're going to outgrow in 3 months. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want them to attract someone they have longevity with, or the propensity for longevity with. I don't want them to date somebody that was perfect last year, but won't be perfect next year. So I would say that you have to try to act as if it would be like going into a job interview with a chip on your shoulder. You have to try and act optimistic on a job interview the same way you have to try and act optimistic when you're dating. And even if you're feeling angst and discomfort, you gotta, our feelings can't be our GPS system. Every day, all day long, I'm at a 1 or a 2 on an awkward scale. I am almost never comfortable.
Yeah.
And I get that that's pretty low, but there's almost never complete neutrality. I'm almost always a little uncomfortable.
Yep.
We can't use our emotions to guide us through everything. That's what emotional intelligence is. It's feeling the feeling, nurturing ourselves on the inside, because the world doesn't need to hear how, our crazy internal dialogue, and then acting according to what we know is going to be in our best interest, letting our brain override the emotions. But you don't deny the emotion, you recognize it, and you try not to distract from the emotion, which that's another favorite of mine, as it was for you. Nobody likes to feel that stuff. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes to feel negativity.
No.
But you know what? I will tell you this. A therapist once said to me, Darcy, this will give you some insight into what kind of client I was. Darcy, I have never met a client who started crying and never stopped. She's like, what are you afraid of? I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever stop. She's like, I have never heard. This was 10 years ago. Wasn't that long ago. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, every negative emotion that you feel, it will go away like a wave. Emotions are wave. They're not stagnant. They come and they go, for better and worse.
Damn.
So true.
Mm-hmm.
So true. Wow.
Darcy, I was thinking we go to a song here, and I know they have a ton of questions for you. So I'd love to get some callers in here and have them join in the conversation and do that next. That
sounds great.
Sounds good?
Yep.
You know what I love too, real quick, before we go into the song, what I love about your answers is it's never just like you need to love yourself more, which I feel like is like the cliche answer.
Right.
Like you need to love yourself more.
That's what I got for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do with that?
Yeah.
What am I doing with that?
If I knew how to love myself more, I wouldn't be here in this situation. You know what I mean? Like we need steps, we need homework, we need work,
Exactly.
And I think that was like really cool hearing you give all that.
No, she's being real.
Thank you.
I appreciate the realness.
Yeah. So thank you to all the therapists who fell asleep on me, literally.
Wow.
I don't get it.
Let me find a song for us tonight.
We're back live right now.
We're back live. So I was just talking with Darcy and Phil, and I was sharing with them about a conversation I had last weekend with my buddy Rob. And Rob explained, he was saying, Tyler, I was watching this guy speak, and he said something that really made me think about you. And it basically goes back to a Bible scripture, which I'm going to butcher because I'm not good at this stuff. But
that's all right.
The Bible scripture was basically talking about how there were 2 farmers. Both were, upset, complaining that there was no water, so they couldn't grow their crops. They were praying and praying. But one farmer was actively out there doing what he could in the farm to prepare his land for crops, planting more seeds, plowing the land, doing everything you should do for your farm. The other one was not. He was just complaining and sad.
So he just gave up.
Who do you think God gave the water to? The person who's preparing. And he's like, that's what you need to think about when it comes to your relationships is, are you preparing for it? And he was talking to me because that weekend I was hanging with somebody that I was just hanging with to hang with. Like, if we hook up, it's fun, but it's not really anything that's serious, or nor will it ever be. And he's like, you're 30 years old right now. You're getting older, and time is your biggest commodity. Are you going to just waste that on people that aren't going to get you to where you want to be? He's like, look at that Ford truck right there. What if that was like, what if that was the person just passing you by? And that could have been it, but you weren't prepared because you weren't ready for it, right. And God gave water to the people that were ready and prepared. And I just thought, this shows about those who are struggling with being single and going through being single. And it made me really think and be introspective about, am I doing the right things to put myself in the right situations to meet the people I want to meet, or I want to date, or I want to have, be my wife one day. Mm-hmm. And I really did a lot of thinking that day. And then I partied at the Honda Classic all weekend, which goes against that.
But you're single.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're single. That's what you're supposed to do. And just to dovetail off that, I asked you the question that I asked you at the top, which is, what was your role and why the last relationship didn't work out? Mm-hmm. Because drilling down on your role in why the last relationship didn't work out is everything in the preparation for your next relationship, so that you don't repeat the same mistake again. It can't just be that you picked the wrong partner, or that you that it was all their fault, or that they cheated, because all that stuff happens. But there's something about you that plays into all of these dynamics. And if you don't drill down on that, you will be the person who, I switched genders, gentlemen, and the same shit showed up.
Damn.
Wow. So it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, because I'm the common denominator.
Right.
I can provoke the same dynamic in people on opposite ends of the earth, I think. Maybe even in different stratospheres. I'm the common denominator. So until I realized when it started showing up with women, I was like, oh boy, I was like, my ego, this is where my ego, I was like, I can't have this happen again. I'm willing to be wrong to fix it. I'm willing to be wrong. And I was wrong, and I was willing to be. So drilling down on your role and why the last relationships didn't work out, and setting yourself up so that you have the connection with a therapist, so that when you need a tune-up, you've got someone that you like, that you trust, that you can go to, or whatever it was. Maybe you're somebody who overly merges with your partner and loses herself or himself in relationships, doesn't work out, loses their friends, family feels neglected. You have to really, I believe in visualizing a different outcome, even before you're like putting those things in place, because then your brain has a roadmap to follow. It already has been there because you imagined it,
Yep.
Yes.
You hit every nail on the head.
Yeah, I was
today,
saying
so you just nail them.
You just got a hammer in your hand right now.
Boom. All right, so we got call-ins, guys. You can call in if you want. Let's go through some of the questions though. Advice for someone who is secure attachment but struggles with deeper intimacy. I'm going to read that for you again.
No, I got it. I'm thinking struggles with intimacy. Well, there could be many reasons for why you're struggling with intimacy. Also, you could have gotten a bogus quiz. You could have used a bogus quiz. They're not all created equal. Tyler, you want me to give you the link to the best quiz I know that will give you a really flush result on your attachment style?
Please do that, and I'll also post it on the page so everyone can join in.
I don't have it memorized, but I'll get that for you after the show.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
So the first thing I would question is whether or not you took a test that was sensitive enough and valid enough to identify your attachment style. Also keep in mind that our attachment style, since it's able to heal, it's also able to regress. And first year of the pandemic, I wasn't measuring anybody's attachment style. Everybody was in a crisis. I was not doing any measurements because everybody was insecure. Everybody was feeling anxious. There was nothing secure in most people's lives. So it's possible that you're measuring secure and you're not really secure, or the last time you measured you were secure and you've been around different people and it's since changed. Struggling with emotional intimacy, meaning does that mean that you don't like to show up for it, or that you have a hard time tapping into it? The answer changes depending on those answers. Mm-hmm. If you're struggling to engage in it, emotional intimacy, then, I would say, people who have trouble showing up for emotional intimacy, it's because we got some bricks in our wall.
They wrote they have a hard time tapping into it.
Tapping into emotion, showing up for it. Is that what that means?
Yeah, I guess. I wish I could get Michelle on the phone. Michelle, get on the phone. Join us on the phone.
Yeah, let's get a call in.
So,
Yes, I would love to be able.
I don't know if the call-ins are working, but the chats are blowing up. I got another question for you. This is actually a really good question, I think, because a lot of people fall into this category. What if you can't afford therapy? What are the alternatives? And how do we actively work on ourselves if we don't know how?
I have a free service on IG that I will also give you. Hopefully someone reminds me to do this.
Yep.
This person finds low cost and free mental health services to anyone that asks for it, and she doesn't take money for it.
Wow.
So I will do that for you. Can it give you that resource? Also, you'll have the attachment. So I think that attachment style is one of the most important measurements that will tell us. So I'm almost like an X-ray. It'll tell us what happened, maybe not the specifics, but are there fractures from the past that are going to impact our ability to show up in the present? So when Tyler gets the attachment style quiz that he'll drop on IG, measure your attachment style, see where that lands, and honestly, just email me your attachment style and I'll give you a blueprint and tell you what to do with it. I'll give Tyler, you'll just put my email. I don't care.
Perfect.
People email me or they don't. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. And someone just wrote too, my local city hall has information for free therapy and ours should too. So definitely check there.
Great. That's really great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are really good people who volunteer to do that kind of work. And I have paid lots of money, and you heard my experiences. And Tyler, I'm sure your situation wasn't low cost when you went to the therapist.
Mm-mm.
Like, so it's not always correlated with the price. You can get really good services, and not necessarily if you're paying a lot.
Yeah. I also think just get out there and talking. I think someone told me this too. When you're going for your therapist, you got to go through a lot of them to find the right one.
Your therapist should be somebody that if you were alone in a coffee shop and there was no one else there, you would feel comfortable either initiating a conversation with or responding to.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not happening, they're wrong. And you should be able to figure that out in the first month. People often don't know how long to idle in their therapy. They're waiting for the like, is it going to happen?
Right.
You have to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that you want to unzip emotionally from neck to groin, but at least the person makes you comfortable.
Yeah.
You still have baggage. And the thing is, therapists really need to take responsibility for initiating difficult conversations, because human beings, by and large, we don't like conflict. We don't like feeling negative emotions. And I don't rely on my clients to bring me content. Their content in sessions stems from a therapy goal that they've identified, that we've agreed to, and a date by when we're going to measure it. So, I know that that's not how most people practice, but I wish it was.
Darcy, I got one last one for you. The call-ins aren't working, but the chats are blowing up. Like I said, they want to know, and I want to know too. What do you do for your own self-care?
I work out 3 days a week with a trainer, not because I don't know how to work out, but because I won't. If there's not a human being who's expecting me to show up, I won't do it. I'm lazy. I try to eat clean. I eat pretty clean. I ride a horse twice a week. And I try to prioritize my relationships because I tried to practice what I preach. And so this last weekend, I hung out with my niece, Ashton, and her boyfriend, Caesar. And it was an ab workout for 72 hours because we laughed the whole time. Mm-hmm. Like, that is all we did. I came into Monday high from that experience. It was just amazing. Like, You need to know, you need to be around people. We need human connection. We need human connection. We need to hang out with each other. Yeah, and then I try to be nice to myself when I mess up, which is often and difficult.
I think I just saw that. I think it was. I don't know the damn names. Anyways, I just saw someone post it. I'm trying to think of who it was, but I thought it was really cool. You said like, be nice to yourself. Someone put like a picture. The therapist told them to put a little picture of themselves as a kid, as they're on their mirror. And if you ever feel bad about yourself or you're talking negative about yourself, you're hurting that little kid.
Oh, well done.
Oh my
I
God,
like that.
that's so deep.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really interesting.
You're going to DM me that therapist because that might be my next therapist.
I'll find that and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That it's little hacks like this that help us be more compassionate to ourselves. Because, like, look, it's not our fault that we got this way, but we got to do something about it. No one's doing it for us. Yeah. No one's doing it for me, that's for sure.
Well, Darcy, this has been amazing. I mean, you should see. I wish I could read you everything that people are saying here, but everyone's thanking you for joining us and calling in. And
oh, thanks.
I mean, this has been
Absolutely
great.
amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've learned a ton. I'm sure everyone on here has learned a ton, and I can't wait to put this on YouTube so everyone else can learn. I mean, this has been great, Darcy.
Thank you so much, Tyler. And I mean it. Like, I don't bullshit. Like, Juliana will give you my number.
Mm-hmm.
You need anything, you just text me.
I will.
It.
Well, I want to go to dinner with you.
Absolutely. I would love
so
that.
Next time I'm in New York, I would love to take you out to dinner.
Yes.
And your wife, she can come too.
Hear it right from the horse's mouth. I'll bring Steph.
Yeah.
And she'll tell you all the dirt on me.
Perfect. I love it. I can't wait.
You get 2 shrinks for the price of 1 dinner.
There we go.
You both are therapists. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, theoretically.
And if you ever want to get out of the cold, you always have an invite to South Florida where I'm at.
Thank
so
you.
I have a house here waiting for you guys whenever you need it. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Tyler. Phil, it was so nice meeting you.
A pleasure meeting you as well.
I love that you're his mentor. We need mentors, folks.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
That's another thing.
I agree.
Self-care, I've always had mentors.
Yep. I always have the best conversations with Phil.
I love that. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Darcy, thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much for calling in, for commenting, and joining us today. It's been a wonderful episode. I can't thank you enough, Darcy. That's a wrap for episode 34 of the Everybody But Me show. See y'all. Love y'all.